social capital. I am Julio Foliaco. This conversation is about the new concept of social capital. The better the relations between schools and community, the better the academic performance of the students. This, I am quoting to Laida Hanifa, supervisor of schools in West Virginia, who in 1916, he find out that the better the relationships between schools, teachers and fathers, the better the academic results of the students and the better the results for the society as a whole. So this is like the genesis of this concept of social capital. We are going to answer 4 questions. First question, what is social capital? What it means, the new concept of social capital. Who is considered a social capitalist? The people who have a lot of money or the people who have many friends? And another question is, why trust becomes very important concept in the new economy, So there is more research since Lida Hanifa. We could take reference point from 1980 when scholars like Pierre Bourdieu, Michael Woodcock, James Coleman, and Robert Pruman, among other scholars, they find out that social capital is not just a concept related to physical resources, to economic resources. Social capital is related to sociological and economic fields, academic fields. So, social capital is the convergence of 2 disciplines, sociology and economy. That's the difference between the traditional concept of social capital and the new concept of social capital. The new concept includes physical resources, but includes human resources, cultural resources, capacities, education, training of the people. And in addition to that, the relation between people, among people, that relation, the communication, the information among people. So that's the big difference. The second point that these scholars found out is that social capital has to be with trust. Trust in the people is very important. Without trust, it's difficult to have social capital. You have to trust in the people. Otherwise, it's difficult to have social capital. Another important point, is the differentiation between horizontal and vertical relations. To these scholars, horizontal relations are those relations among people into the local communities, villages, small towns, domestic relations. These people have domestic relations. The relations among friends, families, neighbors, local communities. They solve the critical problems in a local way. So, and there are vertical relations, the relation that the community, the individuals have with governments, with institutions. So, practically, we are talking about horizontal relation, local communication among people, and the big cities have the vertical relation, the formal relations. And the fourth finding of this scholar is related to the socioeconomic development. Socioeconomic development is better explained by the new concept of social capital. So, what is all of this is important? Why nowadays? Why just in the present time and the future time could be influenced by the new concept of social capital? To begin with the trust. How trust works. People is trusting in sellers in virtual business, in virtual trade, in virtual marketing, and is seller in the enterprise assessment of the enterprise. You just find the assessment, the supplier assessments on internet, and you buy sense to this information. So trust is changing. We have the traditional trust in banks, in corporations, institutions, insurers, in priesters, just the traditional trust. But we are now trusting in strangers, people you even know, people you even have been any time in your life. The relation face to face are given a space to the virtual relations. So that's important for business. There are many enterprises. Just on internet, you can buy anything, shoes, cars, whatever you want to. So, to mention three enterprises, very important enterprises. Airbnb, who matches passengers and hosts. Super Rabbit, who gives service, domestic service, like clean the house, like wash the clothes, the working the dogs, and that kind of service. Sense to technology, sense to platforms, technological platforms. So the world is changing, the business are changing, the trade, the marketing is changing, the economy is changing. The new money, the new currency of the economy is the trust, the new trust. So the second important point of all of these researchers has to be with the socioeconomic development. Socioeconomic development could be better explained by social capital. The new concept of social capital could explain better socioeconomic development. So we have to mention the gross domestic product, the GDP. All of the countries have GDP. GDP is the economic growth, the rate of economic growth. We have every year this rate for every country. Countries, underdeveloped countries or developing countries, they have rates up to 3%. And developed countries have rates up to between 5 and 7%. So this is the economic growth, just the economic growth. But this index doesn't explain enough the real economic situation, the real socioeconomic situation, because don't explain the income distribution of the poor or the people, of the population. There is no the income distribution in this index. So income distribution is key, is important to know what is the gap between poor people and rich people. So In other terms, the question is where the wealth, where the economic growth goes, to a small number of people or to the majority of the people. So that's the key. And social capital can help to explain that better, to explain poverty, absolute poverty. So, in summarizing, first, social capital is the convergence of two disciplines, the economy and the sociology. And that explains that social capital has to be with human resources, with capacities, with training, with education, with culture. And the relationship, the networks are very important in social capital. And second, to explain the economic growth, you have to use the social capital, the new concept of social capital. The traditional concept is not enough to explain economic growth. Better, the socioeconomic growth is better explained by social capital.